sometimes when devotees come to see monks, come to see us, we encourage devotees to practice meditation. Some devotees, they take our advice. They want to practice meditation when they have time. But many devotees, they give the reason. I do not have parami to practice meditation. Is that true? They don't have parami. We do not know how much we have parami, perfection. To know how much we have parami, we must practice so that we can understand how much we have parami. But we want to attain Nibbana. Just doing dana charity cannot attain Nibbana. Taking precept directly cannot attain Nibbana. Practice samatha concentration directly cannot attain Nibbana. We have to practice vipassana meditation. So, if we want to know how much we have parami, we must test ourselves. That is, practice meditation, vipassana meditation. Today, what I'd like to talk about is about Samanera who attained Arahataship at the age of 7. He was a disciple of the Sariputta Thera, the Buddha's chief disciple. The Samanera was newly Samanera. When he was 7, his parents allowed him to be a Samanera, young novice. The family was close to the Thera, Sariputta. One day, he wanted to accompany Thera Sariputta when he went for alms food. The Thera Sariputta allowed him to accompany. On the way to the city, the Samanera saw the farmers channeling the water into paddy fields. The Samanera was so young to know they were farmers. That's why he asked his teacher, Venerable Sir, who are they over there? Then when the Sariputta Thera looked at farmers channeling the water into the paddy fields, they are farmers, he answered. What are they doing, Venerable Sir? They are channeling the water into their paddy fields. When he heard the Thera Sariputta answered, he thought to himself, water which has no consciousness can be guided into the paddy fields. he marked. Then they continued. Then he sought again some archers, straightening their arrows, hitting the arrows with fire, but he didn't know who are they. Then he asked, Venerable Sir, who are they over there? Sariputta Thera didn't stop him not to ask. The Samanera was talkative. He was very young. Sariputta Thera was very patient. They are archers. What are they doing, Venerable Sir? They are straightening their arrows, hitting their arrows with fire. Then he thought again, the crooked bamboo, which has no consciousness, can be straightened. Then when they proceeded, he saw again carpenters cutting the woods, making into things. Then he asked again, Venerable Sir, who are they? They are carpenters. What are they doing, Venerable Sir? They are cutting the woods, making into useful things. Then he thought, timber, which has no consciousness, can be made into useful things. So seeing farmers channeling the water into paddy fields, seeing the archers straightening arrows with fire, seeing the carpenters cutting the woods, making into things, he got sense of urgency, samvega. Do we have sense of urgency when we see something? But I believe our yogis here, when you practice meditation, you have saddha, faith or confidence, you have willingness, you understand the teachings of the Buddha. That's why you are here. Spend your time with practice the teachings of the Buddha. So that Samanera, young Samanera, whose name was Pandita, when he saw the farmers, archers, carpenters, he got sense of urgency. Then he thought, water, which is without consciousness, can be guided. If the water, which is without consciousness, can be guided, if the crooked bamboo, which is without consciousness, can be straightened, the timber, if the timber, which is without consciousness, can be made into useful things, why should I? Not to tame my mind. So seeing them, he got a sense of urgency. Then he got the idea to tame his mind. Do we need to tame our mind? You can answer quietly. Yes, we need to tame our mind, because we have so much defilements. Basically, 3 roots: lobha, wanting or desire; dosa, anger or hatred; moha, delusion. These are unwholesome roots, disturb our mind. Because of them, our minds are not pure and not clear. Our minds are so wild. So, Samanera Pandita, he also thought, I should tame my mind. Then he didn't want to follow his teacher, Thera Sariputta. He asked permission to go back his monastery. He wanted to tame his mind. So Sariputta Thera allowed him to go back to the monastery. Then he went back, entered his room and sat down like our yogis sit here. Then he practiced diligently and ardently. What he practiced was that the 4 foundations of mindfulness, he practiced diligently. The 4 foundations of mindfulness are Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Citta Nupassana, Dhamma Nupassana. Our yogis have heard many times. But I want our yogis to repeat after me, so that you also can have the chance to say the original words of our Buddha. I still remember when I was invited to teach in New Zealand, in the forest, deep forest, very difficult, very cold. Yogis, they practiced. All yogis are beginner yogis. They do not know what vipassana meditation is. But every night, I let them to repeat after me. So they like it very much. Kaya Nupassana, Satipatthana, Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Citta Nupassana, Dhamma Nupassana. Then they said, oh, Pali language is very beautiful. They like to recite very much. So now our yogi also have to repeat after me. This is also tradition in our Mahasi Meditation Centre. The Sayadaw let the models, the Pali Burmese, then yogis have to repeat after him. So now our yogis also have to repeat after me, even though you know the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Citta Nupassana, Dhamma Nupassana, Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Citta Nupassana, Dhamma Nupassana, Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Citta Nupassana, Dhamma Nupassana. Please say 3 times. Please say 3 times. Kaya Nupassana,
Vedana Nupassana, Citta Nupassana, Dhamma Nupassana, Kaya Nupassana, Vedana Nupassana, Citta Cetanupassana, Dhammanupassana, Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Cetanupassana, Dhammanupassana.
In English, contemplation of the body, contemplation of feelings, contemplation of consciousness, and contemplation of the dhamma. In Vietnamese, how to say?
Quán tâm trên tâm.
So please say in Vietnamese. So
Quán tâm trên tâm, quán thọ trên thọ, quán tâm trên tâm, quán pháp trên pháp, quán thân trên thân, quán thọ trên thọ, quán tâm trên tâm, quán pháp trên pháp, quán thân trên thân, quán thọ trên thọ, quán tâm trên tâm, quán pháp trên pháp.
in English, please.
Contemplation of the body in the body, contemplation of the feelings in the feelings, contemplation of the consciousness in the consciousness, contemplation of the dhamma in the dhammas.
Please say sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So Samanera Pandita, he practiced these four foundations of mindfulness diligently and ardently. When we say diligently, he made effort. As the Buddha taught us, he sit down and cross leg, keep upper body upright. Then he might keep his mind on the primary object, like we note here, rising, falling, rising, falling of the abdomen. He made his effort. How did he make his effort? He directs his mind to the abdomen, might be. Then note the rising, falling from the beginning to the end. He noted falling from the beginning to the end closely. So when we say closely, noting the rising and falling, we have to understand three kinds of effort. Arambha dhatu, Nikama dhatu, Prakama dhatu. Three kinds. Arambha dhatu is the initial effort. Initial effort. When you sit down, you have to sit properly, then breathe in. You have to prepare. You have to follow the instruction before you note the rising and falling of the abdomen closely. How we are instructed: breathe properly, not too hard, not too slow, but carefully. Don't take deep breath. If you take a deep breath, you will be tired. But I say what I understand, because yogis, according to my experience, what yogis reported, Sayadaw, I could not see the rising falling. I could not see the rising falling. Then I note sitting, touching. If they are beginner yogi, I do not accept what they say. I encourage them to note the rising, falling carefully. So I told them, take full breath. Take full breath. When we take full breath, the air goes to the navel area. You can check. Take full breath. If we take short breath, the air in breath goes to the chest area. That's why some yogis, they say, I could not see the rising falling in the abdomen, only in the chest. Never mind. If you could see in the chest, just do it. But short breath. You have to take full breath. When you take full breath, the air goes to the navel area. The rising falling movement is quite prominent, quite clear. That's why you have to breathe in out carefully. So this is the initial effort, the first effort, which is put forth. So when you note the rising falling, you put forth effort. Without putting forth effort, you could not feel or you could not see the movement clearly. So initial effort is very important. Once you could note the rising falling very closely, then you have to develop this initial effort. Not only one time you could note the rising falling closely. Whenever you breathe in out, you should catch the rising falling movement all the time. Let's say, if you could note one time the rising falling closely, at the moment of noting the rising falling closely, or in the single of the rising movement, there is no defilements. Just now, what I said, no three unwholesome roots. Wanting or greed at the moment of noting closely. No wanting in the mind. No anger or no upset, no disappointed in the mind. The mind is so clear. No delusion in the mind. Because when you note the rising, you notice the rising movement. The mind is so clear. No anger, no disappointment at the moment. But you may not notice because so short. What the Buddha taught, at the moment of noting, if you could note one noting closely, you accumulate wholesome deed, kusala, one time. So in this way, you have to develop your initial effort, the first effort. So if you could note several times, or 1 minute, or 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, your initial effort getting stronger. So you would understand what I'm saying. The initial effort, at the very beginning, you have to put your fourth effort to be able to know the rising closely, to be able to note the falling closely. So if you could note the rising closely, you have initial effort. If you could note the falling closely, you have initial effort. So you have to develop this initial effort to increase. Or you could note 1 minute, or 2 minutes, or 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. So getting stronger, develop. This is called Nekama Dhatu. So seeing, to be able to know the rising falling so many times, you would notice when you are practicing. At the beginning of the retreat, what I taught, the Sattanam Visuddhiya, for the purification of beings, you might notice, as long as you are mindful, or you are able to note the object closely, at the moment your mind is so clear and so pure. So pure. But you should not stop noting. You have to put effort. Then you shall have Nikama Dhatu. Nikama Dhatu. Sometimes while we are practicing meditation, noting rising, falling, we could not see the rising, falling clearly. Our mind goes away. Then how would you feel sometimes? Getting bored, lazy, because you could not see the rising, falling. You are unable to know the rising, falling closely. That's why while you are sitting, the mind becomes restless. You want to change one side to another. Then you look at the clock and this and that. This shows you are not interested in the practice. Sometimes we experience we are lazy. We don't want to practice because we can't see the things. So if we are able to note, we become interested, noting. So happy, you know. At the beginning of the practice, it is so difficult to keep the mind on the abdomen. You are not interested. But if we are able to note it, we are very happy. We enjoy noting the rising, falling closely. Then we could overcome laziness. To overcome laziness, we must put forth effort. Forth effort or successive effort. I would say successive effort. What I understand and just translate. Nikama Dhatu. Nikama Dhatu. When I check the book, they say medium effort. Yes, medium effort also may good, but what I understand, according to the yogis' practice, successive effort. We must put effort again and again, again and again. Now the rising, falling closely, again and again, whenever we sit. Practice sitting meditation. In this way, we could overcome laziness. The successive effort encouraged by willingness, chanda. If we do not have chanda, willingness, we may not respect noting rising, falling closely. Not only the rising and falling, whatever arises from the 6 sense doors. When you see something, you will not see it immediately. When you know the mind thinking, you will not think it immediately. You will not delay noting. Whatever arises in the body and mind, you will note it straight away. Or you develop prakama dhatu. Prakama dhatu can overcome laziness, encouraged by willingness. So we should have prakama dhatu, arambha dhatu, initial effort, prakama dhatu, successive effort. Then we need to progress. Why do we practice vipassana meditation? Because the Buddha taught everything is impermanent. Everything is changing, moment after moment. Everything is unsatisfactory. There is no spirit, no ego, no self. The Buddha taught. Whether or not it's true, or if we are the followers of the Buddha, we just simply believe. But the Buddha taught us, don't take it by word. Ehipasika, come and see, practice. Thus, I have comprehended. You too practice, then you will comprehend. He didn't say, what I say, you must believe me, you must follow me. He didn't say, don't take his word. So we practice according to his teachings. So when we practice according to the instruction, we also can see changing, unsatisfactory, not self. He didn't hide. This only for me. This understanding, this knowledge, only for monks. He didn't say that. The understanding to everybody. When you practice meditation, you will practice. You will understand according to your parami. It's not for special. So, to progress, we must continue our effort. Progressive effort. Progressive effort. Now, at the beginning of the practice, let's say for beginner yogis, new yogis, the experienced yogis, they could sit for 1 hour easily, and they could manage all the objects which arises in the body and mind. Or you could not sit for 1 hour, even might be difficult sitting for half an hour. Now how many days already? About 4 days. Or you could sit half an hour, maybe more than that. Then now you could know the rising, falling for several times. You could practice walking meditation back and forth a few times. Then you could notice the upward movement, downward movement according to your report. You have improved with your own practice. You progress, but not enough yet. Not enough yet. You have to put forth effort, the mental energy, as the Buddha taught, atapa, putting forth effort. So we have to apply these efforts. Arambha dhatu, initial effort. Prakama dhatu, successive effort. Then, Nikama dhatu, successive effort. Then Prakama dhatu, progressive effort. So when Pandita Samanera practiced, he applied these efforts. That's why just before lunch, he attained anagamihood. No returner. There are 4 stages of enlightenment, Sotapanna, Stringvina, Skadagami, once returner, Anagami, no returner. He didn't jump to attain anagamihood. One after another, he realized. Before he attained enlightenment, he have to clear up his mind. He also cleared up the hindrances. Then his mind became pure. Then he understood the mind and matter, cause and effect. In this way, he attained Satapati fruition, Skadagami fruition, then Anagami. Just before lunch, he attained the 3rd stage of enlightenment. While he was practicing ardently and energetically, Sakatiwa Raja noticed something happening in the human being's world, because his seat getting warm. When he knows his seat getting warm, he was so afraid somebody will take over his place. That's why he was so afraid. When he checked the world, Samanera practiced so hard, he could not stay his place. He came to look after Samanera. Not only the Sakatiwa Raja, king of the Devas, when the leader came down, the followers also cannot stay at their place. The Devas and Sakatiwa Raja protected the Samanera who practiced very hard. Now our yogis here. What do you think? Saka and Devas protect you or look after you when you are practicing meditation? What do you think? What do you think? I hope so. We do not see any Sakatiwa Raja and Devas, but I can see with my eyes Santu, Mr. Khan, and helpers and Sayadaws look after our yogis? What do you think? They look after you. They are concerned about the yogis' progress. That's why they help. That's why yogis can practice happily and comfortably. You don't need to be worried about your food. So when a person practices meditation, the devas look after. So just before lunch, he attained anagamihood. The Buddha saw in his vision, Samanera practiced so hard. Now he attained enlightenment and anagamihood. But his teacher returned to the monastery. If he entered, the Sariputta Thera also may concern about that, not worry, may concern about the Samanera. Samanera was so young, he might be hungry. Now just about noon, he might be so hungry, so he concerned about his disciple. So if Sariputta Thera entered the monastery or his room, he could not practice meditation quietly. The Buddha saw, I have to stop Sariputta, put in the questions, so that Samanera would attain Arahataship. So the Buddha also went to the monastery where the Samanera practiced, then stopped Sariputta Thera by putting the questions. Samanera was practicing diligently. He didn't check the time. From the morning, maybe about 8 o'clock, we go out for food about 8 o'clock. Then maybe about 11:30 or 11:45, he was still practicing. Then he attained Arahataship. He became Arahat. Then the Buddha let the Sariputta Thera go. So here we can understand, we can study how Samanera practiced. He practiced diligently. So when we also can take Samanera's example. When we practice meditation, we must practice diligently or ardently in sitting meditation, in walking meditation. Not only sitting and walking meditation, in daily activities. When you finish sitting meditation, you should apply your mindfulness. Do not forget your mindfulness. And get up slowly and mindfully. Before you get up, you have intention, note intention. When you get up slowly and mindfully, then walk out to practice walking meditation. Then other daily activities. When you put off the shoes, when you put on the shoes, when you put off the dress, everything's daily activities. Have to note. What the Satipatthana Sutta said, even the nature calls, we have to be mindful. Because at the moment, we can understand, we can notice something in the body and mind. That's why we should not be careless. All the activities. So please repeat after me again what the Samanera practiced, the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Kaya nupassana, Vedana nupassana, Citta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana, Kaya nupassana, Vedana nupassana, Citta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana, Kaya nupassana, Vedana nupassana, Citta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana. Please, 3 times.
Kaya nupassana, Vedana nupassana, Citta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana. Kaya nupassana, Vedana nupassana, Citta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana. Kaya nupassana,
Vedana nupassana, Citta nupassana, Dhamma nupassana. So the Samanera, he didn't know how much he had parami, perfection. He was so young. When he saw the things, he got sense of urgency. That's why we should not blame parami. I don't have parami. I don't have parami. We have to understand we have our devotees here have parami. I would say, if you do not have parami, you will not practice meditation here. You will not be interested in the practice. You will not meet the meditation teachers. Here you are very lucky. Sayadaws are here. Not only one, 4 Sayadaws. You are very lucky. Also they could teach you. They could help you. They could help you how to practice meditation. So you have parami. You yourself interested in the practice. So only you need to practice diligently. 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 When you practice diligently, you respect your practice. Sitting meditation and walking meditation. Don't look at anywhere unnecessarily. Don't talk anybody unnecessarily. Don't rest too much unnecessarily. You have to follow the instruction. If you rest so much, you waste your time. If you look at here and there, you waste your time. So if you really want to progress your practice, you have to practice diligently. Just now I said the 3 kinds of effort. Initial effort, you have to put initial effort in the walking meditation and in the sitting meditation. Then what? Another one, successive effort to overcome laziness. Sometimes, even though we like to practice meditation, noting all the time we are not allowed to look at here and there, the laziness arises. So we have to not lazy. If we put the successive effort, so still we have to put 4th effort, the vigorous effort, to understand the insight, knowledges, to experience. That's why at the end the Buddha uttered a stanza, Uddakan hi nayanti nittika usukara namayanti tejana daro namayanti tisaka attana damayanti pandita. The Buddha uttered a stanza after attainment of Arahatship, the Samanera. Uddakan hi nayanti nittika. Farmers channel the water into the field. Usukara namayanti tejana. Archers straighten the arrows. Daro namayanti tisaka, carpenters work the timber. Attana damayanti pandita, the wise tame themselves. The wise tame themselves. The wise is the yogis, not the scholars. Yogis. In a text, the Buddha taught Gambhira, the dhamma which he found, which he realized, profound, very deep. We cannot touch the ground. How deep? The more you are mindful, the more you could understand the dhamma clearly. No end. No end. That's why the Buddha said Gambhira, do dasa. Very difficult to see. Not easy to see. Now you know the rising falling. Could you see that clearly? Not easy. The dhamma is not easy to see. Do dasa. Dura nuboda. Difficult to penetrate into the dhamma. Attaka vasara. Cannot understand by thinking. Cannot understand. Attaka vasara cannot understand by thinking or analyzing. Pandita vedaniya. Only the wise can understand, can know. The wise means yogis. Yogis. You cannot study this meditation in a school, but you have to, if you really want to know, you have to practice. When you practice vipassana meditation, at least you understand how difficult to control the mind. Is it easy or difficult? I want to hear. Is it easy or difficult to control the mind? Difficult. Difficult. Eh? Why? Because the mind is so quick and so fast. It goes wherever it likes. You are here, the mind goes around the world. If you cannot control, true. So this is the experience the Buddha taught. So at least we understand it is not easy to control the mind. But if you apply these efforts, 3 kinds of efforts, you can easily control. You can easily control. Don't take my word. If you keep the mind on the abdomen, the mind only stick on the abdomen. Or what a yogi this morning report, glue on the abdomen. Doesn't go anywhere. Yes, true. When your practice is getting better and stronger, when you experience some kind of inside knowledge, you send your mind back to your home. But your mind doesn't go at home. Will come back here to the abdomen. So when the pain arises, then the mind will note it closely. Then the mind doesn't go anywhere. You put it. You send your mind back or send somewhere. Your mind doesn't stay somewhere. Your mind will be with you. Oh, this is the quality. You can control your mind when you practice respectfully or ardently and energetically. So in this way, you can be wise. Pandita vedaniya. Only the wise can understand. That's why the Buddha said, Attana damayanti pandita. The wise tame themselves. Now you are the wise because you are taming your mind. So I will stop here for tonight. May you be well and happy. May you be able to practice meditation ardently and energetically, diligently. Then may you understand the Dhamma clearly as they really are.